Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have another show for you from Como, Italy. First on the docket, why should we care about Bryan Kohberger's upbringing? The suspect in the Charlie Kirk murder case is somewhat absent from his court appearance. A man kills his wife over unable to get rid of that baby weight. New surveillance footage emerges of the teenager found in the rapper's trunk decomposing. Prosecutors submit their sentencing statements in the Sean Combs case. A Pennsylvania mom finds an intruder in her child's bedroom. We have This Day in Legal History, our quote of the day, and our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and yes, you can go check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. As I mentioned, we are here in Como, Italy. Once again, tomorrow is the wedding for my son. Can't wait. Excitement. Got a little pre-party tonight that we're going to, so we're going to knock this video out. I hope you enjoy it. Before we get started, go to crimetalksearch.com. Listen, if there's somebody coming into your life that you want to check out, you need to use a background subscription service so that you can find out who this person really is. Let's face it, if somebody, is trying to get to know you, they're probably not going to tell you everything about themselves up front. Go check them out. You're going to be able to find out, why do they have 10 different emails? Is it because it's all those dating sites that they have? What's their social media presence? You're going to find out if they have a criminal history. Are they married, divorced, all down to sex offender registry? Go to crimetalksearch.com and sign up today. You're going to be happy that you did. Now, we told you about, we're reopening the Crime Talk store for merchandise. We did it years ago, kind of been fading away from it, but we're back. Basically, the high demand that we got from our giveaway, which was the Crime Talk keychain. Go hit the link below. Check out what's available. More stuff is coming. I hope you like it. And if you have any suggestions, hey, let us know. We're here to make you happy. All right. So let's go ahead and get to the docket today. First on the docket, why should we care about Bryan Kohberger's upbringing? Now, yesterday we did a show about Bryan Kohberger's family, and there were a couple of people that said, gee, I'm not really sure it's fair. Why should we bring his family into it? They didn't do it. I get it. But if we can understand the family dynamics, that oftentimes creates who somebody is when they grow up. So let's talk about it. First, understanding the family dynamics and childhood environment of individuals accused of or convicted of serious crimes, such as Bryan Kohberger, and let's say, for example, Jeffrey Dahmer. It holds significant value in the field of criminology, psychology, and forensic science. Now, this analysis does not seek to excuse criminal behavior, but rather to elucidate potential contributing factors, thereby informing prevention strategies, risk assessments, and broader societal interventions. So let's talk about the importance of, the parallels between these two cases, for example. So psychological and sociological research consistently demonstrate that early life experiences, including family interactions, parental relationships, and environmental stressors, profoundly influence an individual's emotional regulation, social skills, and their propensity for antisocial conduct in adulthood. So, adverse childhood experience, such as abuse, neglect, household dysfunction, or exposure to conflict, have been empirically linked to heightened risks of criminal involvement later in life. For instance, children subjected to maltreatment are approximately 50% more likely to exhibit antisocial or criminal tendencies as adults, as this experience can disrupt neural development, foster maladaptive coping mechanisms, and perpetrate cycles of trauma. Now, this nurture aspect of human development complements genetic predisposition, providing a comprehensive framework for why certain individuals may deviate towards harmful actions. So by examining family backgrounds, researchers and professionals can identify patterns that aid in early intervention, policy formulation, and therapeutic approaches to mitigate recidivism or even prevent escalation. So let's take a look at, for example, Jeffrey Dahmer. He's obviously an American serial killer responsible for murdering 17 people between 1978 and 1991. And it exemplifies how family instability can contribute to deviant trajectories. Now, he was born into a household marked by parental conflict, frequent arguments, and eventual divorce. Dahmer experienced emotional neglect and isolation during critical developmental stages. His mother reportedly struggled with mental health issues, while his father was often absent due to work, leading to a lack of stable attachment figures. Now, these dynamics fostered Dahmer's early social withdrawal, fascination with death, and the inability to form healthy relationships, factors that forensic psychologists later correlated with his necrophilic and cannibalistic behaviors. Now, understanding Dahmer's family environment has been instrumental in advancing knowledge of serial killer typologies, highlighting the role of maternal relationships and childhood trauma in shaping homicidal impulses. Now, this insight has informed profiling techniques used by law enforcement and contributed to public awareness campaigns on recognizing early signs of psychological distress. So, how does this factor in with Bryan Kohberger? Similarly, investigating Bryan Kohberger, obviously the man convicted of the 4 University of Idaho students, offers potential explanations that we can look into. Now, though details remain limited and subject to, obviously, what we know from the legal proceedings, but we do know is Kohberger was born in 1994 to his parents, Mary Ann and Michael Kohberger, and his mother, referred to as Mother, in Pennsylvania. He grew up in a seemingly middle-class household with 2 sisters. Now, reports describe his mother as being warm-hearted and his family as outwardly average. However, Kohberger has publicly reflected on feelings of profound disconnection, self-worth issues, and detachment from his family, likening his experiences to observing a video game. Now, these self-reported struggles, combined with accounts of his rural upbringing and personal challenges, suggest possible environmental influences that warrant further scrutiny. As with Dahmer, delving into such dynamics could reveal how familial interactions or unresolved traumas might intersect with other factors, such as academic pressures or social isolation, to influence alleged criminal actions. Now, this understanding is particularly relevant in Kohberger's case, given his criminology background, as it may illuminate motivations or risk factors overlooked in initial investigations. Now, wouldn't you love to know or see what was in all of those reports that his defense team prepared for mitigation? My guess is there's some keys in there as it relates to his upbringing. So, in both instances, analyzing these family dynamics enhances the comprehension of how environmental factors mold adult identities without implying determinism. It supports evidence-based efforts to address root causes, such as improving, for example, child welfare systems or providing mental health resources in dysfunctional homes. Moreover, it aids in destigmatizing mental health discussions while emphasizing accountability for one's actions. Now, professionals, you got to approach such inquiries with a little bit of sensitivity, ensuring that family members are not unduly vilified, as seen in the public scrutiny faced by both Dahmer and Kohberger's relatives. Ultimately, this knowledge is going to foster more information for society to help better equip and hopefully prevent similar tragedies through proactive measures. So like I said, we had several comments yesterday saying, why are you talking about the Kohberger family? They didn't do it, but it helps explain. All right. Listen, somebody who grew up thinking I was the only one in a dysfunctional family, then I began doing criminal defense work, and then I realized that, well, everybody is dysfunctional growing up and in their families. And either A, become your parents, or B, you become the complete opposite of your parents. So I think it's definitely worth something looking into and studying more. Obviously, I don't think the Kohbergers are going to be submitting to a public evaluation of their situation, but I know the defense did, and I would love to see those reports. Next, the suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination is somewhat absent from court yesterday. So, the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson, made a court appearance on Monday without being visible to those present. Now, Robinson, who's only 24, along with his recently assigned attorney, requested a delay in the waiver hearing and declined to submit a plea at this particular stage. Now, under Utah's judicial procedure, the defendants have the choice to forego their entitlement to a preliminary hearing and proceed directly to an arraignment for an entry of a plea of guilty. Now, although police have indicated that Robinson would participate remotely via video, he remained unseen during this session, and his legal representative, well-known Utah defense attorney Catherine Nestor, conferred with prosecutors in his absence before Judge Tony Graff took the bench. Now, Nestor informed the court that the defense does not plan to bypass the preliminary hearing. And remember, the preliminary hearing is where the prosecution must present adequate evidence, probable cause, would a reasonable person believe that a crime was committed? Yes. And that Mr. Robinson was, in fact, the person who did it. And they have to do that to justify the charges. Anyway, Robinson's attorney emphasized the necessity for additional time to review the extensive material provided in the discovery by the state, noting that the process could extend several months. Now, Robinson obviously faces charges of aggravated murder, with the prosecutors intending to pursue the ultimate punishment of death. Now, the proceedings occurred publicly in Provo, Utah, located just a short distance from the Utah Valley University campus in Orem, Utah, where the community continues to grapple with the aftermath of the September 10th incident and the manhunt for Robinson. Now, Robinson's subsequent court date is now set for October 30th, at which time he plans to attend in person. Now, police apprehended Robinson after he arrived at a sheriff's office in the southwestern part of the state, accompanied by his parents, to surrender more than a 3-hour journey from the shooting scene. Now, prosecutors have disclosed text communications and generic evidence linking Robinson to the offense. And prior to the shooting, Robinson reportedly left a message for his significant other, stating he had a chance to eliminate a prominent figure in conservative advocacy and intended to act on it. And this is all according to the Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray when he gave his press statement. Gray also referenced a message from Robinson about Kirk, expressing that he could no longer tolerate perceived animosity. Since his detention, Robinson has been held at the Utah County facility in Spanish Forks, Utah. Now, the killing of Kirk, a 31-year-old associate of President Donald Trump, who focused on mobilizing younger voters toward conservative causes, has energized Republican supporters committing to advancing his ideological goals. Now, Trump has labeled Kirk as a symbol of sacrifice for liberty and pledged to address what he terms extremist elements on the left. Now, Kirk founded Turning Point USA, which is located in Arizona, which engaged young evangelical Christians in political activism through online platforms, broadcasts, as well as university gatherings where he would go and basically debate anybody that was willing to talk with him. Now, several high-profile Republicans are stepping in to host the scheduled campus engagements that Kirk had already organized, such as Utah Governor Spencer Cox and Senator Mike Lee at the Utah State University on Tuesday. Kirk leaves behind his spouse, Erica, a daughter aged 3, and a son who was just 16 months old. Next on the docket, a man kills his wife for not being able to shred those pesky pregnancy pounds. Yes, how utterly romantic. A loving husband decides his wife hasn't shed those pesky pregnancy pounds fast enough, so he thoughtfully helps her by choking her out and chopping her up, because nothing says I care about your health like a murder charge. June Bunyan, the ambitious 37-year-old Scot from the picturesque Isle of Arran, who ditched the UK for American dream of lawyering up as a defense attorney. She even launched her own outfit last year, Renteria Paralegal Services, focusing on immigration woes in Los Angeles. But alas, her storybook life took a charming turn on September 11th, courtesy of some traumatic neck injuries that weren't exactly from a spa day gone wrong. Enter the hero of our tale, her 25-year-old hubby, Jonathan Anthony Renteria, now lounging in LA's Twin Towers Correctional Facility after being nabbed for this delightful domestic drama. With a bail at a bargain $4 million, he faces murder raps plus a bonus count of mutilation, disinterment, or getting a bit too cozy with human remains under California's oh-so-fun health and safety code. Now, a prosecutor spilled the information from his interview. Apparently, the couple's spat escalated because she dared not slim down post-baby. How dare she prioritize motherhood over hitting the gym, apparently. Things got even more heartwarming when she started tossing stuff into bags, vowing he'd never lay eyes on their daughter again. His solution? A classic rear naked chokehold, because why talk things out when you can play UFC in the living room, apparently. Local police say she vanished from sight after September 4th while he was spotted sneaking off with the kid the next night, then parading around with garbage bags like it was trash day. He graciously dumped the baby at his folks' place before allegedly turning his wife's body into a DIY puzzle project. Now, neighbors, bless their gossipy hearts, whispered that June opened up about the abusive vibes in her marriage. One building buddy, Ariel Miller, painted a vivid picture. He micromanaged who she chatted with, spewed verbal venom, and fixated on her figure like a bad diet coach. The suffering, the fear, the violence, nightmares, fuel, Miller quipped, and who could blame her for losing sleep over such a fairy tale ending? Now June's devastated clan back in Scotland is humbly begging for donations to ship their cherished daughter, sister, niece, cousin, and pal back home, because nothing caps off this touching love story like a GoFundMe for repatriation. Next on the docket, new surveillance footage emerges of the teen found in the rapper's car decomposing. So, surveillance video has surfaced showing a girl identified as Celeste Rivas interacting with neighbors back in September of 2024, several months following her missing persons report in May of 2024. Now, Rivas, who was 13 at the time of her disappearance, turned 14 shortly before the footage was recorded. Now, her remains were located in early September of this year in a Tesla owned by musician David Anthony Burke, known professionally as David, spelled with a 4. The body was decomposed, dismembered, and concealed in plastic within the vehicle, which was parked in the Hollywood Hills area. Now, the video, dated September 8th, 2024, depicts the girl yelling at neighbors outside an apartment building while they played music. She accused them of a prank doorbell ringing at her family's residence. A male voice responded during the exchange. Neighbors later identified her as Rivas based upon local missing person notices that they had seen. Following this incident, one neighbor's partner visited Rivas's home to offer an apology. Her father answered the door and did not appear concerned. The neighbors concluded that Rivas had returned home safely. Now, this recording was captured one day after Rivas's 14th birthday. Now, police have not confirmed if they knew of her presence at home during the period between the missing report and the discovery of her body. Rivas's family stated they last saw her on May 4th of 2024 when she departed to attend a movie with David, spelled with a 4. Anyway, images on social media have appeared showing the two together after that particular date. Now, investigators are examining the relationship between Rivas and David with a 4. Both had a matching tattoo reading SHH, S-H-H-H, in red ink on their right index finger. Online users have identified an unreleased track attributed to David titled Celeste Demo Unfin, reportedly recorded in December of 2023 with lyrics mentioning a person named Celeste. The song's legitimacy remains unverified. Now, Rivas's death certificate was released on September 29th, and it lists the cause as pending further tests and investigation. It also indicates that she was not pregnant at the time of death, nor in the preceding year. Now, the Los Angeles Police Department has stated that determining if foul play was involved depends on medical examiner results. Without those, apparently, the case cannot be designated as a homicide. Now, sure, maybe she died of natural causes, right? Completely possible. And then somebody saying, well, she died of natural causes. Let's chop her up, put her in a bag, and put her in a car and abandon the car. That sounds totally legitimate, doesn't it? Or not? Anyway, on September 29th, the LAPD noted that investigators continue to assess any criminal involvement beyond body concealment, and the vehicle had remained stationary for weeks prior to being impounded, implying that Rivas may have been deceased for an extended period of time. Now, David proceeded with tour dates initially, but guess what? He canceled a performance in Seattle after Rivas's identification was announced, because I'm sure he was concerned that his girlfriend had been found in his car dismembered, and so he finally got around to saying, you know what, we should probably not focus on work right now. Anyway, sources close to David reported they believed Rivas was in a romantic relationship and estimated her age to be around 19, assuming she attended the University of Southern California. They noted she accessed age-restricted locations, contributing to this perception. Now, Rivas reportedly first encountered David at the age of 12 years old. Now, let's be clear, there is no direct link between David and Rivas's death that has been established by police as of yet, and David has been described by acquaintances as reserved and very mild-mannered. Records also show that Rivas had left home on prior occasions and came from a challenging family situation. Her mother previously mentioned that Rivas was involved with an individual by the name of David, but didn't specifically say he spelled the name the four. Anyway, the police conducted a search of David's former Hollywood Hills rental property for potential items of evidentiary value. Evidence was gathered, but nothing specific has been disclosed and of any significance that it may have. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why the prosecutors aren't moving forward. I know they got to wait for the coroner's results, but really, you would think they can get those lab results back as quickly as they needed to if they wanted to. I get it. It's a cold case, low priority. They probably have a person of interest that they're not mentioning, but the reality of it is come on. It's a 14-year-old that was found deceased in a car, dismembered. You think there'd be a little bit of priority in moving this case forward. Next on the docket, prosecutors filed their sentencing statement in the case of Sean Combs. That's right. Federal prosecutors have formally requested that the judge impose a prison sentence of at least 135 months. For those who need to math, it's equivalent to more than 11 years for Sean Combs following his conviction on charges related to transporting individuals for prostitution purposes. In a detailed 189-page filing submitted late Monday, ahead of Friday's sentencing, the prosecution emphasized the profound and enduring harm caused to multiple victims over a 15-year period. Now, the submission argues that Combs' actions constituted a deliberate and extensive operation that extended across the United States as well as internationally, involving numerous individuals. Prosecutors highlighted the severe consequences for victims, including singer Cassie Ventura and another only identified as Jane, who endured physical assaults and emotional degradation, leaving them deeply traumatized. Central to the prosecutor's case is the assertion that Combs prioritized his own dominance and authority above all else, repeatedly demonstrating a disregard for others' well-being. They contend that only a lengthy incarceration can serve as an effective deterrent, signaling to potential offenders, regardless of their status or resources, that accountability will prevail. Now, the filing criticizes attempts by the defense to downplay the offenses, pointing out that the crimes were intensified by elements of coercion, intimidation, and manipulative tactics. This pattern, prosecutors claim, inflicted significant psychological and physical damage, warranting a substantial penalty to reflect the gravity of the misconduct. Describing the scheme as premeditated rather than isolated incidents, the document notes that Combs targeted vulnerable individuals he could influence and exploit for his own personal satisfaction, often in scenarios referred to as these freak-offs or hotel nights. And while financial gains was not the motive, the pursuit of self-indulgence drove the behavior with no boundaries being respected. Prosecutors further underscore Combs' acknowledged acts of aggression towards Ventura and Jane, including instances where he treated Ventura as an object and ignored her pleas. They maintain that the pervasive nature of his actions, even absent overt violence in every case, demands rigorous consequences to address the full scope of the inflicted harm. In addition to the prison recommendation, the prosecutors seek a $500,000 fine, reasoning that Combs' substantial wealth facilitated his wrongdoing and should factor into the punishment. Now, this approach, they argue, is essential to promote justice and protect society from similar abuses by those in positions of influence. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's their position. It's basically about deterrence. And hey, let's not minimize this. It's just prostitution. Now, obviously, this case is not what the prosecutors originally thought that they could prove because they failed at the most serious charges. and he needs to be sentenced based upon what these charges represent. However, the judge does have some room to wiggle, so to speak, under the federal sentencing guidelines, which he could either give a maximum sentence of up to 15 years or basically a sentence of credit time served. Next on the docket, a Pennsylvania mother confronts an intruder in her child's bedroom. So in Pittsburgh, a mother discovered a 23-year-old man unconscious on the floor of her daughter's room early Sunday morning with his trousers lowered. She confronted him verbally and physically, prompting him to flee the residence and position himself on the front steps, according to the police reports. Now, the individual, identified as Miguel Meza, exhibited signs of alcohol consumption, including the odor of liquor on his breath, as noted by the police report. Police reported that the woman discharged 2 warning shots skyward from the porch, which drew the attention of some nearby neighbors, obviously. They subsequently removed Meza to an adjacent property. Upon arrival, police officers initially received no response at the neighboring home, but were eventually granted entry. Inside, they located Meza, concealed in a storage area beneath bedding. Meza faces accusations of unauthorized entry and intoxication in public. His next court date is October 9th, and his bail set at $5,000. Next on the docket, this day in legal history. September 30th, 1789. The first session of the United States Supreme Court convenes in New York City, marking the official beginning of the nation's highest judicial body under Chief Justice John Jay, and establishing the federal judiciary's foundational role in interpreting the Constitution. On this day, September 30th, 1791, the United States Congress establishes the Postal Service, creating a federal agency to regulate communications and mail, which laid the groundwork for federal authority over interstate commerce. This day, 1888, the United States Supreme Court rules in Mugler v. Kansas, the states can prohibit the manufacture and sale of alcohol under police powers, upholding state regulatory authority over public health and morals. On this date, 1898, the United States Supreme Court in Holden v. Hardy upholds Utah's 8-hour workday law for minors, affirming states' rights to enact labor protection against economic due process. This day, 1905, United States Supreme Court, Lochner v. New York, strikes down the New York bake shop labor law, establishing that Lochner era of substantive due process and limiting state regulation of working conditions. And then on this day, 1924, Congress passes the Immigration Act of 1924, the Johnson-Reed Act, imposing national origin quotas on immigration, a restrictive policy that shaped U.S. naturalization laws until the 1960s. And finally, 1965, the United States Supreme Court in Griswold v. Connecticut invalidates, actually arguments were heard on this date, but it invalidates a state ban on contraceptives, recognizing a constitutional right to privacy and laying the groundwork for later reproductive rights cases. A legal quote of the day, the 10th Amendment. You've heard about the dormant 10th Amendment. Well, the amendment states, but a truism, that all is retained which has not been surrendered. That was Justice Harlan Fiske Stone in United States v. Darby, 1941. Everything not specifically given power to the federal government was reserved to the states. Obviously, 10th Amendment doesn't get a whole lot of play these days. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. The glorious implosion of a 3-way romance led to one gal from the Love Squad getting slapped with cuffs per the Boys in Blue. Now, police rolled up to a late-night ruckus at about 10 p.m. in sunny Summerfield, Florida, where they met Devin Driscoll, a spry 26-year-old, whining about evicting her former squeeze and his side piece from the pad. Turns out the digs are a spacious double-wide trailer snapped up by Mommy Dearest back in 2023 for a cool $172,000. Now, Driscoll spilled the beans that she'd been playing happy families in a multi-partner setup with the duo, but now that the party's over, she's all about showing them the door. Because nothing says mature breakup like calling the police to play referee in your polyamorous pity party. Congratulations, you all three should be dumb criminals of the day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Hope you enjoyed the show from lovely Como, Italy. And always remember, and never forget, the Constitution matters.